Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name's Bryony and I'm one half of the Indecisive Readers. Today I'm here to do just like a quick review of the Bone Season series. I recently finished The Song Rising, which is the third book in the series, and it's December this month, which means it's the end of the boneathon, which was a 3-month readathon hosted by Ashley at Frolic Through Fiction, where the first 3 books in the series were read in anticipation of the 4th book coming out next year. So I'm just going to kind of talk through my thoughts on the series generally. I was going to do it on just the final book, but before this video has been filmed, I have filmed my November wrap-up and my review of it was in there, so there doesn't seem like a lot of point of actually like including something that's just a repeat of itself. So whilst I will be talking about some of the same things, I will not just be talking about the one same thing. But I will link that video down below, so if you want to check out my review, you can. The Bone Season series is a 7-book series where clairvoyance can't exist. Paige Mahoney lives as part of an underground gang because she is a dreamwalker, one of the highest orders of clairvoyance. The first book follows Paige as she gets captured, and then a lot of stuff spirals from that. I can't really say a lot without spoiling it, but I suppose this video is quite spoilery. If you haven't read these books, you probably shouldn't watch this video because I'm just kind of discussing my thoughts, and so it probably is quite spoilery. In the first one, she gets captured by this like otherworldly super species called the Refate, called something, but she escapes at the end. In the second book, as criminals from these Refites, she tries to make the rest of the world aware of what they are, at the same time as an uprising is happening within the Mime Order. In the third book, Paige is now under Queen, and a lot of stuff has happened. A lot of people she thought she can't trust anymore. And then there are also new people that she never thought she would have trusted, but now she does. And she goes on a mission to save clairvoyance by destroying a thing that is threatening them, I suppose. I first read this series in June. I'd read The Priory, the Orange Tree earlier that month, and when I was in the library with Sam, I saw the first book in the Bone Season series, and it's a series that Sam really loves. And I thought I might as well pick it up. I really enjoy The Priory of the Orange Tree. Sam raves about this series. I should read it because there's a free book there. Might as well check it out. And I rated it 3.5 stars. I don't believe this is a bad rating. I think I was in the hype of Priory. I just really enjoyed Priory, and so I think everything else I was going to read was obviously going to compare, and because I love that one so much, it probably wouldn't compare as well. There were a lot of things I liked about it. I thought it dealt with a lot of like interesting themes like slavery and, is it Stockholm Syndrome? That thing that Belle has in Beauty and the Beast, where the person who's captive falls in love with a captor. And so that was kind of an interesting thing. It's not necessarily explored as a theme, but it is there, which I think made the relationship between Paige and Warden a really interesting thing. I know a lot of people really ship it, and to be honest, I've just never felt it. Like, I know it exists, but I kind of have never really seen the relationship being there. Like, I know it does exist, but it's not like, it's kind of not in your face. So I suppose for me, as a person who doesn't like romance, that's probably a good thing. Like, I don't think I've ever commented on it at all, but especially not in a bad way, which is definitely unusual for me. So I enjoyed that. It's one of the things I liked about the third book, the romance. I think the romance changes throughout the 3 books, in that, like I said, in the first one, it's kind of there because they're in close proximity to each other, and the relationship they form is a bit twisted. In the first one, the relationship they have might not be just formed because they like each other and might be formed out of a closeness and an intimacy. Then in the second one, I think it's kind of their relationship is formed on this has happened before, maybe it should carry on. At least that's what I remember. And then in the third one, it begins to feel a bit more genuine. There's something that breaks it up a bit, but at the end it's okay again, or is on a different foot again. And I think that was interesting. It's not clear cut, it's not they are definitely in love, it's not they definitely even like each other. It's very walking on eggshells kind of ish. And also, when I don't know when I found this out, it may have been July. I don't know if I'd read the Mime Order by then. I definitely read the Bone Season, but Samantha Shannon said that she believed Paige was demisexual, and that's something that I relate to. And so seeing that kind of in a book, I enjoyed. It wasn't necessarily they don't immediately fall in love, like, or the whole thing is demisexuals don't easily fall in love, and I think that is really well shown by Paige, because like I said, over 3 books it's not even obvious. So good job on the romance. I don't know if it was something I was aware of as I started reading the books in this series, but it was something I was aware of kind of during the Mime Order. And it's a ridiculous observation, and I said it in my review last month, but feel free to laugh at me again. But basically, I thought the refi looked like this. Green aliens from Doctor Who. Now, I know they're not. I know they're meant to look like humans, just like really tall. But for some reason, it stuck in my head that they're green. And even when I was reading the song Rising, knowing that they weren't green, I just kept imagining them as green and being like, no, they are not green, you must imagine them as something else. And it was just, it kind of felt really jarring. I think that's why the first 2 books I didn't rate as highly, because I think that's, again, another reason why I didn't like the romance as much, or didn't understand the romance, because I was like, oh, it's a bit weird that she's fallen in love with a green creature. And I think I thought they were green because they're meant to be otherworldly and scarily, weirdly beautiful. But yeah, you can laugh at me. Sam's laughed at me. Lots of people will think I'm weird, but anyway, I've got over that, which is probably why I partly enjoyed the song Rising more, because I wasn't imagining these green creatures. Like, they actually blended into society because they looked just like tall people rather than green aliens with hoods on. Things I really liked about the first one, I liked the relationships within the group, I liked the world building and the chase scenes, and I can't really remember a lot more, but I do remember enjoying it, just not loving it. Like, I have a problem with star ratings, but I feel like 3 doesn't seem very high when it's a highly rated series, but in reality it's still quite a good rating. Anyway, I rated the Mime Order the same, so 3.5 stars, and it's most people's favourite books, but my problem with this wasn't necessarily the overhang from Priory this time. I think it was just I haven't read a series in a while. Now, I have obviously read series in a while, but they're like trilogies, but lots of stuff is squashed into a single book, so many events are compressed into a trilogy worth of books. I haven't read a 7-book series in a while. Obviously, I've read Harry Potter, and my favourite book is the Septimus Heap series, which is also 7 books long. But I know those stories. I know what the big event is meant to be at the end, and I know what the whole book is working up to. Whereas with these, I just feel like I've fallen out of the habit of reading them. Like I said, in trilogies, there might be 3 big events that happen in each book, so like overall there are 9. But in a 7-book series, there's kind of like one massive thing that happens in each book, and then all the other events lead up to it. But yes, in the second book, the big event at the end is the battle to become the new Underlord or Underqueen. And I knew that this was going to be a big event, but I didn't know this was going to be the big event. For some reason, I thought other stuff was going to happen, and this was Like, I thought this was going to be like a middle of the book kind of thing, and then something else would happen afterwards, but I was kind of like waiting and waiting and waiting. And I didn't necessarily feel let down by when it finally turned up, but I was just kind of like, I remember saying to my sister afterwards, it was like 400 pages long, and the last thing, or the big thing, happened in like the last 70 pages, and I was just kind of, I suppose surprised is also the wrong word, but I was just anticipating it happening early. So obviously a lot of stuff happened in the 300 pages before, but I was just like, when's it going to happen, when's it going to happen, when's it going to happen, and that kind of ruined my enjoyment a bit. But honestly, the plot twist at the end was insane, but I feel like I just kind of glazed over it. But now I'm looking back, I'm like, that was insane, why didn't I think anything more of it? The third book, The Song Rising, I actually rated 5 stars. I waited a lot longer to read this, not necessarily on purpose, but it just happened. I think I read the Mime Order in July, and then in August, or it may have been the end of July, Ashley announced that she was doing the boneathon, readathon, and I was like, that's a real shame, I could have saved reading them until then. But I picked this up, I think September. I definitely picked this up in September because I remember what day it was when I picked it up. But I picked this up in September thinking, I might as well read it now, I'll join in with the readathon. But then I didn't have time to start it in September, so I thought I'll just save it for October, that's a bit closer to the December when it's meant to be read. So I started reading it in October, and then it finished in November, and I was like, that's fine, that's closer to the reading month of it. I have had this out the library for so long, no wonder they want it back. I basically left this a lot longer before reading it, not on purpose, just because that's how it happened, and so maybe I enjoyed it more because I wasn't rushing straight into it after loving Priory so much. But there were a lot of things I liked in this, mainly based on the realisations I'd come to from the previous 2. So by now I knew that the Rephite weren't green, and I knew that there was going to be one big event, and there were going to be other things that led to that event, but there was going to be one big event at the end, and I could work out what the one big event was, so I knew everything was building up to that, and I suppose then my anticipation built with it. I wasn't disappointed when it didn't happen earlier, but I wasn't kind of like approaching all the other things being like, well, this isn't going to work because it's not the big event. It just meant I enjoyed it a bit more. Like, my anticipation was still there. I was still excited to read. I didn't know what was going to happen. Like, whilst I sort of had an idea of what the big thing would be, I didn't know how they were going to get there, or how it was going to work, or if it was going to work. So I enjoyed this one a lot more. The main thing I liked was the world building. The world in this suddenly seems so much bigger. In the Bone season, it's based in London and like some dead city, which is basically Oxford, but some city that shouldn't exist. And then the second one, I think, is basically just based in London, just different parts of London. But this is based in London and an underground part of London and Edinburgh and Manchester and Ireland. And so, like, it's not just one world, it's like 5 different worlds combining into one. And it's going to go further afield next year. And also, by having more worlds, it's got more characters and more clairvoyance with different abilities and people who feel differently about the way they're being persecuted. And I just thought it was really well done. And I really, really liked it through the whole thing. And yeah, this is definitely my top one so far, and I'm just really, really looking forward to the next book. So now I can actually take this back to the library, because I tried to renew it yesterday to do this video, and I've quickly done it this morning because they said I couldn't renew it anymore. So that is my experience of the Bone Season series by Samantha Shannon. If you have read any of these books, or you joined in with the boneathon, let me know your experiences with the books as well. And if you want a more in-depth review of the books, I will link all my wrap-ups down below, so you can check them out if you want. If you liked this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and maybe subscribe if you want some more videos like this, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!